the 2000s, and these women are black women, were raised by single mothers, absentee fathers, fathers that are either incarcerated, dead, or just gone.
Talk about
That their mama said, you don't need no
it.
you don't need no man. You can do it by yourself. So that energy
Woo, this is giving me
comes in.
chills.
That energy comes into the home. They're not, what you talking about? Unless you giving me this, doing that. There's no respect of the man, the black man, in that, by black women. And I'm not, black women, do not be mad at me.
They're gonna be
Because
mad. Trust
I'm not
me.
talking about all of y'all. I'm saying,
They're
but
gonna be
there's
mad.
a majority of you guys that was raised without a father,
Now-
so you have no respect for that. So what's the difference?
Okay.
Well,
let me say this really quick, because I know my fan base, and I know these people.
Ooh, I'm gonna
and
get
they're
in
gonna
trouble.
drag.
I want to ask you something Columbus Short said, since we talking about that.
Sure.
He said he got some heat for saying that black men are dating outside their race because most black women are raised by single mothers and absentee fathers and taught a don't need a man mentality. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's what I would say to my brother Columbus Short, and I'm a fan of his. Are we not all victims of the systemic oppression and injustice that racism has introduced into our community? So just as you have black women who didn't grow up with their father, you have black men who didn't grow up with their fathers or their mothers. In other words, why is it acceptable for the black man raised by a black woman without his dad to reject a black woman raised by her mother without her dad? I think sometimes black men can be guilty of a double standard where we want a perfect offering when we ourselves are not a perfect offering. And to that point, I think black men need to recognize the fact that one of the reasons we have so much conflict with black women is because we don't operate on a masculine platform with our women all the time. We tend to operate on a female platform. For example, when the woman gets angry, rather than you trying to understand your queen non-emotionally. See, you can't have both people in a relationship with a low emotional IQ. Because if both people in a home, if you and your wife both have a low emotional IQ, if you and your wife both have a low emotional IQ, y'all going to argue over everything because nobody says, I am not going to emote over this. I'm not going to deal with this with feelings. I'm going to use reason and intelligence. That's what the man is supposed to do. Yeah. But guess what we do? Raised by single mothers, many of us, we reflect right back to them that emotional trauma that they throwing on us. So in essence, you have two females arguing, although one is in a man's body. Black men have to start being masculine and less feminine. All this cattiness, this back and forth between black men and black women on the internet, that is feminine and feminine. Masculinity don't operate like that. Masculinity wants to understand where the woman is coming from. Masculinity wants to then intervene, study himself, evaluate his behavior, and try to level up to where she needs him to be. But arguing back and forth with women as a man, that's anti-masculine behavior. What we really need is some testosterone shots. We need more testosterone because black men are mimicking female behavior emotionally, and they're not even recognizing it.
All right. I seen Nyla was over there clapping. You sound like a fan over there.
Let the truth speak. It's too. When I see the black men and black women online, it's sad because it's like it's petty. Because I feel like a real man, if he's in his masculinity, he understands that all a woman has is her words. All she has is her words, but because he's raised by a woman and that's his influence, and he sees that woman behaving in that's his influence. That's not really his fault. You know what I'm saying? It's none of our faults, the experience that we've had in our environments. However, when it plays out, when you see it play out between us, it's sad because that's why I left not that ex, but he was feminine too. And my last ex, like, we argued over everything and everything.
Nyla, I got a question though. You said that women only have their words. Words are
powerful. Yes, they're powerful.
Words are the most powerful destructive
True.
tool.
I agree.
On this planet. So
as a growing woman, I'm going to say, as a growing woman, I was very guilty of that. You know what I'm saying? I was very guilty of my words, my cutting words, until I had to really realize like words are really powerful, and most men, they don't express themselves in that way, but when it gets to being the low blows and the low vibration and the words that we exchange in regards to that, then it does come off, because women do look to the men. Well, most women, I'm not going to say this era, but the women in my era looked to men to be men. My father never raised his voice. My father never called my mother a bitch. He never, he didn't. They were separate. They were, they weren't together, but they still had a lot of love for each other. And when I realized that it was my mother that was the J cat in the relationship and not him, because I had this thing like, oh, you didn't love my mother, you left my mother, but it was my mom. And I realized, oh, you was the culprit with this, but he never disrespected her. I never saw him raise his voice. He didn't have a lot to
And
say.
but the thing is that God knows what it was that he was enduring in silence that entire time. You know what I'm
True.
saying? We a lot of black men are unaliving themselves. A lot of black men are taking that in so much that it develops cancer and depression and all of these things inside of themselves
Can I
because
ask a question?
all because
Oh,
all women have are their words. You
so
know what
can
I'm
I
saying?
ask you
That
a question? Okay,
sure.
what's the difference between like how we're having this discussion right now, right? And it's a respectful discussion. And yes, like women are more emotional. We're more emotional, but men are too. But you don't you don't express your emotions in the sense of a real
Men
genuine way,
men,
or you're
men don't.
told not to express yourself. So it's like,
Well,
can you?
no, it's not that. The thing is that men don't have the space to express their emotions. Most women don't create that space for a man to express themselves, because if they do, then it's going to be thrown back in their face. And I'm sure every man on this panel can agree to it, that they shared something with their spouse, be it a ex or the one that they're with now. They'll express something, and then later on it'll be used as ammo. You know what I'm saying? Or they aren't even able to get their idea or their feelings across because it's irrelevant to the person that they're talking to. So I agree to an extent with what Dr. Umar was saying. But the fact of the matter is that what man in his right mind is willingly going to want to put up with a person that does not value them? That's complete. That's
I think
that
we
doesn't make
all.
sense.
I think we all have just been going by experiences and learning as we go and grow through these experiences as people. Like for me, I saw some examples of healthy relationships, but I didn't see a lot of consistent relationships on like our elders, how they were together. And I do see now that a lot of men withhold because of exactly what you said, how women will use, but it's vice versa. Like, most like when you first meet a man, and this is what I learned as I grew up, you don't share everything, because a man is going to categorize you by what you say, because they are going to already put you, okay, well, this going to be a slut, this wifey material, this might be side piece, this fun girl, so it's,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
so but
women
the
do the same thing.
when you're in that sharing moment, when you're in that growing friendship moment, and then you get to the relationship, the pre-relationship, most men, and I'm gonna say most women can attest to this, when you've been comfortable with the man and you've shared things in your friendship era and you grew to that relationship, that intimate relationship, you got that insecurity back. You got that, oh, you was with this one, you was with that one, you was with this one. So it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. It's just in a different way. Men
What
just
what
display
what you
it. They just keep it in the hole. They keep that ace in the hole till they ready to, shoot
Yep.
off. Yeah.
So,
Men will throw stuff in a woman's face as well. It's not just one way.
well,
Men
no,
definitely do that.
But I feel
So
like women do it more, but men do it as well.
I
Yeah.
I
think Dr. Umar was right when he said that it's a lot of men nowadays that operate in an emotional sense. So now you got men out here acting like women, and them no men that's out here trying to throw stuff back in a woman's face. You was okay with it when we was in that talking stage, but
Right.
now that we kind of getting a little bit more serious, now you got a problem with it, and now you're not even communicating with me in a healthy way. You throwing it in my face. Like, men do it too.
So here's the
But
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead real quick.
but to bring it back to the topic, um, I think both of them was right.
that was the
I
topic.
think well, as far as white women, we got off to a whole different thing with your question, Viz. But with the Columbus Short and Dr. Umar with dating outside the race and the reasons, I think they're both right. I think um Columbus Short, he was spitting facts. I'm not gonna say that that's how I was raised, but it is a lot of women nowadays that are very much so independent and don't mind being independent and don't mind shouting that they don't need a man. I think it's ridiculous, but that is the world that we live in now. But then it's like, how, as a black man, how do you expect a black woman to want to be such a high value woman to you when you can't even meet her where you're literally meeting her where she's at? It's two women now. So how are we gonna grow together if we fighting over petty stuff? Like, who gonna be the one to say, let's move forward, let's get over this? How we gonna get over this? Um, and then how can we not like throw this back in each other's face when it gets tense or intense again?
So
But I think they both made solid points.